Courts and Public Safety to order. I could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Morse?
Here.
Mr. Hardy?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Beggs?
Here. With that, we'll entertain a motion to approve minutes from April 9th, 2024.
I'll do that, Morse.
Support Walker.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion, Hardy.
Support Walker.
Good. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Very good. Public comment. Any public comment for Courts and Public Safety? Thank you for joining us. With that, Mr. Stockhill, we'll move on to the EMS second quarter report.
This will be the quickest I've ever been in that. Standing room only crowd.
That's right, that's right.
Gary
It's a hot
McKean's
ticket.
not here.
It's a hot ticket.
But no, the first quarter this year went pretty well for us here. Staffing is doing good. We're up in volume 105 transports and assessment over the same quarter of last year. We still have an opening here for a full-time associate, looking for the right person to come along. And one of the things that in all the years that I've been doing this, I mean, we have critical incident stress debriefing team that's been utilized by the county, the sheriff department here, and there's crews that go all over the place in West Michigan. And we offer this service free to anyone that needs it when they have an event. Typically, it involves the death of a child, something like that. But in addition to that, there's a couple of retired police officers out of Grand Rapids that form a group called To the Rescue. When they initiated this, it was to try to prevent suicide within law enforcement and emergency services. And it morphed into something way more than that. And they identify why we have such a high divorce rate in emergency services, because it's the adrenaline cycle. You know, I will tell you honestly, I've not been much into going to seminars or listening to stuff like that, but they came in and did a 3-hour presentation. We held it over in Fremont for an orthops, and we had our rooms packed. Some law enforcement joined us there as well. And you know, you talked about the adrenaline cycle that we do, and I've been doing this a while. And if you told me we had a school bus roll over and there's a bunch of kids hit, it's probably not going to take my pulse off that much, because when I get there, I'm probably going to find 2 injuries and a bunch of hysterical kids. But he was saying, he said, you only learn to manage it. The adrenaline is still there, but you learn to manage it. And they talk about how you decompress after a shift and how long it actually takes you to do that, and really identified, it reinforced some of the healthy health lifestyle that I have, but identified the pitfalls that people fall into and why their relationships struggle. And probably the most remarkable thing was afterwards. I mean, we had 5 or 6 law enforcement there, more than that, and their spouses. And I think every single person that walked out of that meeting had nothing but positive to say about it, and everybody needs to go through this. So, and this was, we committed to this, to doing like 4 or 5 of them across our operations at a significant expense. And, but we felt that there was gonna be a payback to it. They came to us and said, look, for these rural operations, we can get grant money to pay for this stuff, but we've done that, and we now have more courses all the way around in our operations already scheduled through next year. And so we're really committed to this, and hopefully we can get everybody to attend this stuff, because I think it was a huge health benefit, not only for our staff, law enforcement staff, but for their spouses to come in here and understand. Maybe you can maybe your spouses can recognize some of these behaviors that you're coming home with, help you understand why and how to overcome them. And so moving on February 24th, we celebrated 44 years of operations, and had another big outing like we did 2 weeks before COVID hit at the Griffins game where we had dinner down there. There was about 450 Life EMS associates and their families that joined us down there. So it was an awesome turnout. We got almost everybody got center ice seats. And so it was a great outing and a great thing just to have that camaraderie outside of that, outside of the workplace. Well, to our surprise, the groundbreaking started in March for the new base. Jim was at an emergency, he goes, yeah, we're gonna be breaking ground, so he goes, they're out there digging on it already. You know, so I drive by and there's footings poured, and I called Mark, I'm like, geez, you know what would have been nice to know about this? He was, well, I didn't know either. But, so they found a window of opportunity with the weather, and they got the footings in. It looked like they poured the slab a couple of days ago, and hopefully they'll start framing next week. And we are currently working on our staffing for the Electric Forest Festival. I talked with National Event Services, who does contracts the medical for it, and that's who we contract with there. And I said, you guys aware of the increase in the venue size that was approved? He was not at all. And I said, well, please check into that, and because we're planning on the same staffing as they are. And he came back and he goes, no, it's going to be next year. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's this year. It's already approved, but they've told them they're not going to have that increase in sales. I don't know what it is, but regardless, we're all planning on the same staffing level that we are. I've already got commitments from Montcalm County again to work with us, so they've been great to work with in the past. Some of you might have noticed that we had a little excitement earlier this week down in our south operations with the tornado going through Portage. And the initial report that came in was building collapses with 30 to 40 people in trapped. And again, it's like the school bus thing. It's like, you know, you need a measured response, but you need to be prepared for it, you know. And I'm fielding phone calls from staff up here. One of our paramedics works part-time down there, and she goes, hey, if I can get an EMT to come in here, we can go down there. And I said, we just pump the brakes a little bit, we'll see what we've got going. And I never talked to our communication center because I know that they are. I was talking to our Grand Rapids director and Jim, because we're shifting resources automatically. And it was pretty amazing. I looked at our GPS probably an hour and a half into it, and I saw 25 of our resources down there. And there was at one point, there was just a line of green or available vehicles headed south on 131. So we were able to put a ton of resources down there within an hour. Fortunately, we didn't need them. You know, I think there were 16 people that were injured, and I don't even know how many were actually transported by ambulance, but it takes hours to get through that wreckage to actually clear it all and find out whether there's somebody in it or not.
Was that the FedEx building?
The FedEx building, there was a trailer park down there, and there was, I'm guessing there was two distinct clusters, because I saw 6 ambulances sitting here and 5 sitting here. But again, it was a very good response from our Grand Rapids operation. We had a lot of people come in immediately. It happened a lot at shift change. A lot of people volunteered to stay over. So it was and I had a vehicle going from Lake County and from Nuevo County transporting down. I said, hey, you guys can hold them there to backfill Grand Rapids as you're sending those resources. So it's kind of, when you look at, I'm assuming one of the reasons you look at our company over others is that ability to move resources and backfill when it's needed. And that really stuck out there. So that being said, was there anything in the responses that stuck out in your mind that you would like anything additional?
I would just say, you know, the overall stats look pretty good. You know, Med 1 average 10 minutes and 42 seconds with a Med 1 compliance at 90%. So that's those are improvements over what we've seen during the height of staffing issues and all the things. That's encouraging. Anybody have any questions? Or
I do. So I agree. I looked at it compared to the last Q1 of 2023 too. It's very similar, but it was already improved in 2023 Q1. Things were getting better. staffing levels and all that, so that's great. You guys have the capability of like anticipating how long it's gonna take for an ambulance to get to a location? Like, the call goes out, you got two, already on
Our
a
CAD
call.
system will identify
It'll say
how
like
many minutes.
40
away.
minutes out. Or,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just saying that the one was
It
40
does.
to Colfax Township. I'm just thinking, man, that seems like eternity for those guys. Feel so bad. Well, I understand that's
But 10 minutes is an eternity if you're waiting. for
Yeah,
an ambulance.
exactly,
I
right.
mean, I've experienced that when I've been waiting. I'm like, my gosh, how long did it take him to get here? You know, and I look, it was 10 or 12 minutes.
right.
It seemed like 20 even for somebody like me.
Mhm.
So I understand that that is a long time.
Right. Well, and that's not really my point. My point, so you guys do anticipate then, hey, you have the capability.
Once
software
the
does.
once the software is entered, it'll look at ambulances and tell you how far away they should be. Now that being said, depending on the mapping systems that are being used in that, if you look at some of the eastern part, especially of this county, even the southeastern part, where it'll show a bridge going across the White River that doesn't exist. You know, so you have to have people that look at that and, on our end, on the field side, and say, understand that routing isn't gonna work real well.
Well, that's a seasonal road with that ambulance
Yeah.
isn't gonna make it.
Gonna fit down, yeah.
Great.
Lake County is far worse.
So, yeah.
It's far worse from the standpoint you roll up to a 2-track and go, is this the road or isn't it? And sometimes it actually is. You'll drive a mile and a half down a 2-track and it's a marked road.
Tim?
Yes. Just walk.
Jeff, I just have a couple of comments. Last week, I bumped into a retired captain from a major department who I know very well, and he's also a Marine Corps veteran, and he was a distinguished Marine Corps veteran. And I asked him how he was doing, and he said, my law enforcement career has come back to haunt me. He said, I've got so many things that flashbacks and different things that I did in law enforcement. And we talked for a few minutes. The first thing that went through my mind was, this is the last person that I would ever think that would have stress problems from being in law enforcement. And after talking to him last week and reading this paragraph on what you did for your staff, first thing I thought was, I'm not surprised. And then the other thing I thought, good for you. And good for the people, but good for Life EMS to taking the initiative to do that, because you just don't know what's gonna affect people and how. And as I say, with his background, who would have ever thought, that he would have had problems, going forward. And it didn't happen until after he retired. So.
And Ted Van Salcom, our Grand Rapids operations director, he's probably one of those guys that I'm usually on the same page with when we would come to, I wouldn't say disagreements, but other views in leadership meetings. And he came to me and he goes, look, Jeff, I've been through this. I need your support on it. So I said, I'll throw my support in. And albeit, I was a bit skeptical, and I walked away. I'm like, this is nothing short of an investment for us.
Well, on a positive note, when I read that you had your 400 associates, were together at Grand Rapids for the Griffin game, first thing that went through my mind was, I bet if Mark Myers was there, he knew just about every one of those people by their first name.
It's gotten harder. He remembers a lot more of them by name than I do. I can tell you that.
I couldn't believe it when we went in. He and I went and toured the Electric Force the first time on the Thursday that they were opening, and the people that were there, the only one that he didn't know by his first name was somebody who was hired 2 weeks earlier. And I asked, and I've been told that that's Mark. He does remember people.
Tim Ladd, who used to be the operations director from Costa County EMS, worked briefly for us when we took over Lake County. He was up in Lake County. And when I met Tim, he was talking to me, and he said, I met Mark one time, and he came up there to talk to it. And 2 weeks later, 2 months later, maybe it was, he came to a Whitecaps outing that we had. And, he didn't only remember my name, he remembered that I had 2 kids. And that was I said, I don't know how he does it. I can tell you the names, he's very, very interested in anybody that does not come in with their name tag. He will address you as Mr. No Name Tag. If you don't have to.
Lastly, Tim, Jeff, I haven't kept up on it, and you did mention before about M20, and what intersection is your,
128th.
pardon me?
128th.
120, is that very,
28, yeah, it's.
On the north side of the road?
North side of the road, there's just to the west across 128th is the cemetery.
in what area?
Almost across from the transfer station.
Oh, okay, okay.
Is there any other questions I might answer?
Just one more comment. I think about where we've been with COVID and everything, and where we are now, and just the perseverance that you guys have had. I just thank you for sticking through it, because I bet there were some days when felt like you didn't want to do it anymore, or, you know. And but we needed people like you to stick through it, and thank you for doing that.
No, you know, and actually, I sat in a regional meeting yesterday, and I think I was leaving out the liaison position, because Jeff, you'd be great for it. I'm like, no.
Phil, also, Jim has been hands-on on this all along. He has been my contact person and my go-to person when things came up and there were bumps in the road or somebody that, came up. Jim has really been very, very open and really has handled a lot of those things, the small things, he would go,
I can very honestly tell you I'd be retired now if it wasn't for his partnership.
He sits on the 911 board. He's very much in tune of what's going on in the area, and very responsive.
So what's your official role then, your official title?
Deputy Director, so Jeff's title is Director, and then I'm Deputy Director.
Of North Operations?
Yes.
North Operations,
Okay.
which is Lake Mason, Nuevo, and Oceana County.
If Bill, if you've ever thought that there was something about life that you wanted an answer for, Jim will have an answer and
Okay.
get one for you.
So don't go to Jeff, go to
Well,
like his cell
Mark always told me, he said, you can call me anytime. With as many things as Mark on his table and as many things as Jeff had on his table, some of the small things I would go to Jim, and he was very, very responsive, and I always got an answer back.
Thank you for the kind words, I appreciate it, Mr. Walker.
Well, it's well deserved.
I've just got one thing I'd like to add, if it's okay, on the To the Rescue stuff, just to elaborate a little more. One of the things we do at the end of every class is solicit some feedback from the students. And I can say that the most positive feedback I've ever seen in my career was from that class. And we did have some Oceana folks come over to that Fremont location for it. Comments came back with, this is helping my marriage. Everyone should have this class at the beginning of the career. I wish I'd had this a long time ago. One medic that's been a medic for probably 20 years came back and said, this is the single best class I've ever attended. So we've already scheduled another class at West Shore College. I picked that location because of the size of the classroom. That's already scheduled in September, and that'll hold up to 90 people. I've already reached out to Ryan Schiller and gone over the details of this, and he is very supportive and is going to encourage his folks to attend as well. I'd like all the disciplines from this area to attend if they're able, and not just like EMS. Ryan had a lot of interest with the Sheriff's Department and feels he has a lot of young folks that could benefit. When it gets closer, I'll reach out to the police chiefs as well and Central Dispatch. I'd really like kind of a varied group to attend that. So more to come, but I just want to let you guys know we already have that scheduled. We really want to get more folks involved from outside of life EMS as well, because the benefits that we see. It really focuses on the cumulative effects of stress as things build over your career and how to handle those. That's where the big benefit is. Just want to add that. So more to come. It's going to be this fall, but I really would like to get the law enforcement departments here involved and some dispatchers.
That's awesome. Yeah. Anything else? Jeff, Jim, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
attentiveness
Thank you.
and for your being here today.
And as always, if something comes in between reports, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to address it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Doesn't look like we have any department heads, so we'll gloss over that. Any public comment? Janet, thank you for joining us. With that, we will adjourn.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Finance and Administration Committee. May we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Erickson,
Here.
Mr. Morse,
Here.
Mr. Beggs,
Here.
Mr. Walker,
Here.
Mr. Hardy.
Here. I'd ask for approval of the meeting minutes from April 25th, 2024.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll support, so second that.
Beggs, support by Morris. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for approval of the agenda.
So moved, Walker.
Support. Moved by Walker, support by Erickson. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carried. Is there any public comment at this time for Finance and Administration Committee? Hearing none, we'll move on. Administrator Biard, MERS unfunded accrued liability. So I can read these established, two surplus divisions, supplemental payment for the general and sheriff employees and supplemental payment for the building department.
So Jessica and I had a meeting with Veronica from MERS. She is our representative. And we went through the evaluation with regards to MERS, and we're looking at different avenues and having her go through all of that and explaining, giving us a more deep dive into that information. So we talked a little bit about the payments that the county's been making. There's the payments that they make monthly, and then on top of that, the $200,000 payments that the county board's been making yearly. And we wanted a better understanding of how that all works. And what we found was that when you pay the $200,000 in each year, it lowers those monthly payments. Your unfunded accrued liability is still shrinking, but the amount that you're paying in per month is getting lower. So what I'm asking for with the surplus divisions, it allows that $200,000 to go into a surplus, and it leaves your monthly payments where they are. So your unfunded accrued liability is going to be funded quicker by having these surplus plans.
Makes sense. I didn't
Somewhat.
realize that lowered the monthly payment by making that, which doesn't help the situation overall.
Yeah.
Better to have that stated.
Somewhat like applying to the principal.
Yes,
And
Yeah,
that's,
so-
so,
similar to a mortgage.
It's like paying in advance on a mortgage or paying in advance on a car payment.
Right.
You're still gonna have your monthly payment at the same rate.
Yep.
But it's gonna improve your funding.
Yes.
Makes sense.
And on those loans, it improves your credit score.
Right.
So, may I, Craig?
Absolutely.
I never realized this was available, and I never realized. And when I saw it, then I looked up more information, as much as I could find on it. I think it's an excellent idea, but I think if we decide to do this and go forward with this, I think there should be some type of either an email or a notice that goes out to all of the employees and to the unions, the action that the county board is taking with the, with the suggestion from the administrator to do this. So everybody realizes we care.
Yeah.
And everybody's up, I don't know mechanically how to do that, but I think it should be done. That it was brought to us by the administrator, and we took this action and that's where we're going with it.
And it helps reduce that
Yes.
difference. And just thinking out loud here, but I wonder if 911 knows that too. The same. They probably don't, which might be.
I bet our representative on that board could probably,
I think you will.
you could probably tell them that.
I think you will.
So,
There's too many times, there's too many times that things we do at this board, we don't take the initiative to get it out and tell the people what we're doing. And I think this is one thing that we need to get to tell them. We were able to find money this year to do this. We couldn't do it last year, but we were able to find money this year. We've done this, for the employees.
I think it's a great idea.
so we also reviewed did you have a question, Phil?
Go ahead.
So, we were also looking at the different divisions, because you have your, medical care facility divisions, you have your general, your sheriff, EMS. And one of the things that, really stuck out is that your EMS, division is funded at 180%. So, I think it would be in the county's best interest to, and I don't have that on here as a motion, but it is something that we can talk about and add, at a later meeting. But I was questioning if some of those funds could be moved to, say, or split between the general and sheriff, because there are no new people in that EMS division, so it's working off the ones that are in there right now. So a portion of that 80% above the 100 could be moved to the other divisions to help bring their funded liability up.
Thinking back when we went to Life EMS and stuff, I don't want to do anything that's gonna, stir the pot, the only way I can put it. And that money that was put in there for that was from a dedicated millage for EMS. And I don't know if we can take money that was from a dedicated millage and move it into another division. I think we really, before we consider doing that, we really need to, have some serious thoughts about
Well, no, that's
for
fine.
both of those reasons. Because, and the biggest one being that was a millage that funded that, and we said that millage was for EMS. So let's just
No, I wasn't.
keep looking at it.
Yeah, I
But
think
let's
it should be
proceed
looked
with
at and see, maybe-
let's proceed with caution on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So then that 180%, so we have created a surplus in that side,
A major surplus in that process.
major surplus, and we've been fighting the deficits on all the others for so long. Maybe we better go to legal and find out.
But
That's
it's also, sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah.
Were you done, Paul?
Go
Sorry. I was just gonna say that I'm just making an assumption that EMS pool is probably a lot smaller than the general county pool, so
sure.
it is a large percentage, but it may not flip the radar screen
It might,
as much.
it might not be the total number of dollars that we wanna get into.
Right.
That's maybe what we need to know, is it 60,000 or is it 180,000?
Worth asking.
It's
Oh, yeah.
worth asking, Merz could probably help with that too, and if it goes farther, then I think, legal should get involved with it.
That certainly is one of the criteria that we should look at. how much are we actually talking? You know, that 80% may not even affect by 1% in the other divisions.
Of 200 medical care employees or.
Yeah.
But
Well-
Robert and I, when we go to Cadillac, we talk about that deficit every single month, and it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge for us, it's huge for the health department,
We're talking multi-millions.
yes.
Yeah.
I believe it's
But
4.
I think it's worth looking into a little more and getting some
Oh,
more
yeah.
information, just to see. Anything
So, Phil, you had a,
Well, yeah,
go ahead.
so how much, can you maybe, get to us next time, how much we've, contributed on top of what we're supposed to monthly every, for the last 10 years or so? I'm just curious.
mhm.
And then, it seems like we've received reports in the past, and I don't remember the last time we did, about our status, our funded status for MERS.
Those are annual, yeah.
Yeah.
When does
It
that
shows the percentage.
usually come?
We will have an update, I believe she said in June.
Okay,
And I can tell you right now, we are at roughly 83.3% funded.
in the general one?
That's overall.
Overall, okay,
That's overall, yes.
that's good.
And to affect the funding, do I remember correctly that payment has to be done in like March? It's early in the year, it's February or March to affect the funding that comes out in June. It takes a while for those things to get, but this wouldn't, what we're looking at here, if I heard correctly, it will not affect our funding. It will not raise the funding, the percentage of funding on it.
So even by creating the surplus divisions, it affects the funded level,
Okay,
but it won't affect the amount that you're
Okay.
paying each month.
Correct.
okay.
It won't change that.
And Phil, that's pretty normal. I think 911's in that same
Yeah,
range. So,
no, I think anything, what is it, over 70 is considered healthy,
Yeah.
There's a certain percentage,
and then they take a hard look at it if it starts
right?
declining. And
Yeah, you start paying penalties or something, don't you, at a certain, what percentage is that, do you remember?
I believe it's like 60.
Yeah.
And Veronica did say that, the county board has been diligent with keeping up with MERS and making those payments and paying in extra and,
But
Oh, that's
I don't ever see us getting up much higher than we are now, because none of the new employees are paying into that plan, because they're on the defined contribution rate. So it's only the existing employees who are all starting to retire that are paying into that plan.
but that monthly payment that you're paying in each month is based off of that. So they're taking into account that no one else is paying into that any longer,
But
so you're
it-
making up for that.
Actuarially, they will tell us, what that figure is, but
Yeah.
But it puts a burden right back on this board
Mhm.
Right.
instead of the employees.
Right.
But that was, and at at our District 10 Health Department meeting, they said that there's only 2 counties left in the state of Michigan that are totally defined benefit. Mason and Montcalm.
Yeah.
Because they looked at all of them, they're the only 2 that have not done a hybrid or gone to defined contribution.
And I'm not sure how Mason's gonna come out on the long end of that
Well,
eventually.
Probably, but they've got a big pond up there that plays a lot of property taxes.
Yeah.
Yes, Phil.
Thanks for finding that, that's,
Yeah.
and with Veronica, that's good, I like keeping it at the same level, even, like we're saying, paying on the principal.
It's always a good idea. It's always
Yeah.
been a good idea, even if it's only, $10 a month out of a $200 payment. It'll save you years on the backside.
Mhm.
Years.
Fantastic. Anyone else? All right, Mr. Biard, consideration to approve the L 4029.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about was a supplemental payment.
Oh, okay.
which is the $200,000 for, general and sheriff. And then the other thing that I was asking the board for was 25,000 toward the building and electrical, which is the building department's, MERS fund. They are at 65.5% funded, and that 25,000 would actually come from their fund. I talked that over with Mary Lou to see, if that would be okay to pay that out this time, and maybe look at payments in the future just to start getting that
Yeah,
up more.
with this, since we have gone to the contractual employees in the inspection department, it has been wonders what it has done for that. We supplemented that very similar to what we supplement the transfer station, before, with having the employees be ours. And this time, with the percentage breakdown on the cost of permits, we actually have a nice fund balance in there. And that 25,000, so, yeah, it probably makes sense that we start working towards that one.
What would it cost us to get up to 80%?
Well, I could tell you what it costs you to bring you up to 100% in that fund,
Or that might scare
because I
everyone.
had it marked. No, it's not as bad as what you think.
How many employees are on it?
I don't know for sure. I'd have to go back and check.
Because we have some retirees.
Yes,
right,
so
who
it's
were
retirees and their spouses or beneficiary.
Sure.
So, it's not a high number in there.
Existing employees, there's only 2?
I don't believe there's any existing on that DB plan anymore.
Okay. No, because they'd be defined contribution.
Yeah.
Right.
The existing employees, because the inspectors are contract employees, they're not eligible.
That all
for it.
changed.
268,707, that's what it would take to bring that up to 100% funded.
We're at 60%.
65.
So if we were to gain half of that, 100,000 would make them whole and get us up to 80%.
And I don't know what that fund balance is right now.
Well, it's over 400.
I was not on the board when they did that, but that was a very progressive thing that happened to make those people contractual employees. And it's very, very difficult to find people to do that anymore.
And so we have no employees left in it. It would cost us
We-
$400,000 to make it whole.
268,707.
268.
And there's 400 in fund balance.
I think $100,000 would be a nice start.
Well, any good starts gotta happen. If there's money sitting around doing nothing,
Well, but we have not become addicted, but we've come to the point that we like the interest we earn on that money too.
Right.
so we should spend every penny of the interest and some principal.
Well, I think, I don't know whether the
And,
treasurer has that invested or what.
and we will have to make the decision whether we're gonna use capital improvement money in the next couple of months for the changes up at the health department building, or whether we're gonna fund that out of the fund equity in the building department, because the building department is the only department that's gonna gain from it. And I think we could use some of those funds there too.
I know, like you, I'd like to nick it down, maybe not all of it, but maybe 100 or half,
Get it right in line.
half the amount.
Let's crunch the numbers and see,
Yeah.
let's push the numbers and see what makes sense.
Interest is great to earn, but to pay while you're earning, it
Right.
just,
Well, and it's funded at such a low rate right now that really needs to be corrected.
get it caught up.
Exactly, and that would still, even if you put 150 in or whatever, you still got a pretty decent fund balance left to take a look at it a year from now, 2 years from now, and
$250,000
Well,
earning interest.
And we will not have the problem anymore, but I was thankful we had that fund balance with the very, very unfortunate death we had of one of the employees. But adjusted, so we
Right.
shouldn't have that problem anymore.
Right.
Too bad a tragedy makes you look at things like
You
that. but that's
reassess.
the way it is.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of taking
Whack.
And Craig, while we're talking about it, I talked to Brian today, and Brian is doing the final, drawings. He's been working with the building department, the final drawings on what to do up with that building. And then he anticipates bringing that up to us, very shortly. And then he, has a list of contractors who he will send it out to.
So in your proposal on the 2455, was that 25?
Yes, 25, and if you wanna change that number, that's, and that when you give that motion, then,
I'd like to up it. I think there's still enough fund balance in there, even if we took it to $100,000. I mean,
Bring it in line with the others. Earn an interest on the rest.
and then, just so you know, if you're bringing that one up, that's also going to, eventually affect your unfunded accrued liability number that's at 83.3 right now, so it would increase that as well. It's gonna make the county look better overall,
Next year.
yes.
It will
In
weight that
2025.
then.
Sorry. What is our, current budgeted amount that we pay out of the building department towards the MERS? Can you find that real quick, or is that,
Yeah.
just curious?
I can.
But yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, the fund balance in that,
Well,
I've been talking about that
you still got
before
over
too.
300,000 in there, and I can't
Yeah.
imagine, redoing some of the building. I don't think that's gonna be a huge number.
Even if a portion of that comes out of capital improvement,
Yeah.
we do have
Sure.
a capital
Yeah.
improvement budget to do those things.
Right, yeah.
And just so you know, you do have some ARPA money left as well.
Pardon?
ARPA money, you have some ARPA money left as
Well,
well.
let's
Just to
let's
make you aware.
let's not tap into that.
No, I'd say the fund balance for.
But there again, Mr. Hardy, if we do this, and I'm supportive of it, let's get a letter out to the people that are in retirement that we have done this year, so
Yeah.
they understand, that we're looking at these things and we're doing it.
So you want the ones on the DB?
Pardon?
Like the ones that are on the DB plan?
Yes,
Yeah.
the ones that, the retirees that are on the DB plan though.
Phil, roughly $41,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Your questions, comments?
Nothing more on that.
Okay, consideration to approve the L4029.
So the L4029 form is a form that the board approves, each year for the summer taxes. And this has been presented to you, by the equalization director, and that was in your packet.
Any questions or comments?
I do.
Yes, sir.
One question. So where the millage levy is now 5.6084, could that ever be rolled back? Not that we need to, but could that ever be rolled back to 5.75? Which is the authorized amount? I mean, I would think so, and then what's the process of that? Cause this doesn't go to a vote, to the voter, people don't vote on this.
Right.
So how does that even, and maybe that's an Ed question.
That's an Ed question.
That might be
but
an ad question, yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm just curious, Carmen, because eventually that's gonna, the rollbacks or the
Headley.
yeah, it's gonna make it continue to decline, increase.
believe in my experience that you would have to go to the vote of the people in order to get that. It wouldn't be on this portion specifically, but the Headley portion, to get that rolled.
Oh,
back.
really?
We could roll back the millage that we collect, but not specifically the Headley. Let me give you an example. The village of Rothbury used to have a 7.2% local village tax, property tax. when they started getting the ticket surcharge from the electric force, they dropped down to five mils. There was 7.2, they dropped down to 5 mils, they took 2.25 mils off, you know. That can be done, you can lower millages, but the first thing that you have to consider is, if you lower millage, are you going to have the money for the special requests that people come in for all the time during the year? You have, you know, and
Well, what I'm asking
I'm
about
all
is
in
the
favor of lower.
What I'm
millage.
asking about is the opposite way. What if we need to, I mean, not that we need to, or that I would advocate, right, for that. But, you know, we're at 5.60 right now. What if we need to go back up to 5.75, which is the authorized by, this is election charter, I think that's a statute thing. State statute allows us to do that.
It's the same thing as what we talked with Council on the Aging. Amy, if our voted millage says we can vote up to 5.75, this board has the authority to go up to that 5.775, but we can't exceed it. You know, if we're collecting less, we can go back up to what it is. That's the way I understand it. Is that what you understand too?
Yes.
But there's a reduction fraction for this year, 2024, that reduces what we were, you know, from what we got in 2023. And that just automatically, that's part of the tax code or whatever.
The reduction factor came in because of the increase that we have in our taxable value. You know, we went from 2.1 or 2.2 billion in tax value up to 2.4,
whatever it was.
yeah, you know, there was millions of dollars that we increased in tax value, so that's where a lot of that.
Okay.
And that is reflective from what I was told by Ed and by realtors. That's reflective on the price that houses are selling on now.
Right.
They're not
Right.
supposed to follow the sales.
Yeah.
But
Because that resets the taxable value as soon as they sell that.
But that can go the other way. If you had a major recession or a major drop in everything and the selling price of the houses just plummeted, then it's hold on to services.
Yeah. And then that millage amount could go back up to 5.75 then?
We can raise it to the maximum that was voted in.
I personally don't see that the house values are gonna
No, right.
plummet.
This is more hypothetical, more probably,
Sure.
I hope, more than anything, but I'm just curious.
I don't know, Craig, if we keep giving everything to everybody at higher levels of government,
Yeah.
something's gonna have to give sometime.
1982. We've not seen that since 1982. And if it comes back to hit us again, it will definitely put the whole nation on its ear. Black Monday.
Tell you in November whether it's gonna happen or not.
Any other discussions on the L 4029? All right, moving on. Administrator Biard, administrator's review of selected claims for payment and administrator report.
So the, claims for payment have been, supplied in your packet. Does anyone have any questions on those?
The only thing that I have is a request that when we get to 6 months, let's take a look at, the money we have budgeted for first responders and how much we have spent during the first 6 months, because the first 6 months is usually the slow time of the year. And let's see where we're at with that to make sure, you know, if we've gotta do some adjustment, or we've gotta ask for some adjustments, because we have so many other first responder units that are out there now too. And when you keep seeing bills for $6,000 and stuff, it doesn't take long for that to add up. I think that at the 6 month period would be the right time for us to look at that.
Yeah, I agree. Because Hart's on now, and I think that's gonna add.
Yeah, it's gonna add all the way across.
Hart's only doing med ones, but yeah, it's still gonna.
And you know, it may come down to some changes there too. depending where we're at.
And then, the only other thing I have for my administrator's report is to, make you aware, that the county received a $283,000 check from, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for 2023, and that is a, once we've hit a percentage or an amount at our stop loss, any that's been over that's been paid in is reimbursed to the county. So we received a $283,000 check, and $267,000 of that went into the general fund.
Wow,
We'll take that.
wow, insurance company sent refunds?
All right, moving on. No department heads. So we'll move on. Any public comment for Finance and Administration Committee? Hearing none, we will adjourn the Finance and Administration Committee meeting and take a break until 1:30 for the regular board meeting.